lot about SharePoint, about Teams, and actually, even although you guys all pretty know what Microsoft Teams is, I'll be trying to explain you a lot of drawbacks of Microsoft Teams and how you can actually apply a workaround on those issues that we today encounter with Microsoft Teams. But before we get into a 40-minute demo, I have 4 or 5 slides that I still need to show you, explain you what Microsoft Teams is from an end user perspective. My name is Gokun Nazifsi, and I'm from Belgium. Now doing the vacation in Turkey. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director and MVP. That being said, a little promo about myself. Microsoft Teams is actually one container hosting all of those services or artifacts that we have in Office 365. We use and consume all of those artifacts coming from Office 365, and all of them have their own purposes. SharePoint for storing the data, Flow for making automations, Power Apps for building intelligent applications, and so on and so on. And you can even go further for using SharePoint Framework solutions in tabs using the Office 365 groups or the M365 groups that we call today, the bot framework for the intelligent bot ecosystem, or the Q&A maker.ai shifts, and so on and so on. The list is huge. This image shows you that Teams is actually one capability, one experience, one central hub for all of those artifacts that we have in Office 365. It's a container, meaning that if one of those services have an issue today, well, Teams will have an issue as well, meaning that all of those services should be working 100% correctly for having all the best of Microsoft Teams. Flow having an issue, Teams will have an issue. Planner have an issue, well, Teams will have an issue. SharePoint not working well today, well, automatically Teams will have issues as well. And this is the most important slide of today. I only have like 4 or 5 slides, but this is like the most important one, which shows you the architecture of the components of the Teams ecosystem. And let me take my laser pointer, there we go. This is Microsoft Teams, and every single time when you create a team, well, this, I still couldn't find a logo for the M365 group, so I'm always using the Office 365 groups logo, but every single time you provision one team, well, it will automatically provision a group for you, and that one will automatically provision a SharePoint, a shared mailbox, a shared OneNote notebook, and still Skype for Business artifacts. You may still ask yourself why we have Skype for Business artifacts. Well, the reason is simple: PowerShell. If today you want to use PowerShell for managing the environment in Teams, well, you still need the Skype for Business PowerShell module, and that's still one of the reasons why we have Skype for Business coming here. That's the ecosystem, but then you can also go extend that experience and build your own application. By extending, I mean you can bring a lot of artifacts from Office 365, such as Planner, Power BI, Flow, Power Automate, Power Apps, anything you want, but also go outside of the ecosystem and go to Dropbox, Adobe, and Google and bring content data into Teams and work on top of that. And then you can go to the Azure stack and then build your own application with the Meta Services Notification Hub, which was one of the most consuming services we ever had at Valo when I was still working for them. We used it for sending notifications to diverse applications or even pipelines for managing the Teams environment. So this is the most important slide from my side, at least, to know and remember how the architecture of components is looking like. But then you also have the storage side of stuff, and there things can get complicated from an end user perspective, because we still today have the question of when to use, what to use when. And normally we should be able to say, hey, we are using Teams, so the backend, we don't really care because Teams is actually the hub and it shows us everything that we need. But from an IT pro perspective or from a development perspective, well, that's not really the case, because you need to know where the data is stored. And the first part of this image, like the team, creating a group, creating a modern SharePoint site, and so on, that's remaining the same. What changes is the connected services, because for one service as Exchange, well, we will have different artifacts using and consuming depending on what we want to do. The perfect example for the SharePoint people is this one. If we store a file into a SharePoint site, into Teams, into the Files tab, well, then the file is stored into the SharePoint site. If, however, we have a personal chat with a colleague and I do send him a file, well, that file is stored into my OneDrive for Business. It is the same experience. I'm sharing a file, but if I share it via the Files tab, it's on the SharePoint. If I do it with the one-to-one chat, then it's on the OneDrive. And the list is extremely extensive and long, and I just have here a few examples. Like the meetings is in your personal mailbox, the voicemail as well. However, the recordings today is in Stream, but that one is going to change as well, and that one will also go under your OneDrive. One of the biggest requests we had since day zero, since Jesus Christ, is please, Microsoft, help us with the videos in Microsoft Stream. We want to share that externally. We want to apply retention on top of that. We want to maybe do check-ins, check-out. We want to maybe do a bunch of stuff with those videos, and they never could do that. And now, basically, by moving them to OneDrive or to SharePoint, because at the end it's always the same, well, now we can use all the capabilities we had with OneDrive and SharePoint on top of Stream videos. So basically, that slide is going to change as well whenever this will come live, but still today, a lot of stuff is going to Stream. That being said, we have our architecture Stream Teams creating a bunch of stuff in the backend, and the backend will use and consume all of those stuff for different features and artifacts. So the question I had multiple times before mastering Microsoft Teams is, why is there Microsoft Teams? Why did we come with Microsoft Teams? And this is a recap slide that you might think would be interesting, especially for pre-sales consultants or organizations who still don't use Teams. On-premises is still extremely complicated. If you today want to achieve what Microsoft Teams is doing in an on-premise environment, well, it's going to be extremely complicated and difficult to manage from a cost perspective, as well as from an operational perspective. Today, if you want to invite some people as external guests or as an external attendee for anything in your project, well, you have to think about certificates, about the form-based authentication, about the VPN, about token, about how you want to do the self-service reset password, and so on, which brings you to the conclusion with Teams, it's like in 2 clicks. So why would you still invest in on-premises if you can use Microsoft Teams or any cloud service in Office 365, or even go outside of Microsoft and use Google or Dropbox or X and Y and Z? I'm not talking about organizations who still have to be on premises, but other organizations, I don't see any benefit to invest in an on-premise environment where you have a lot of easy stuff in the cloud. And a lot of cloud offerings, such as OneDrive, or cloud innovations, such as AI, Delve, the transformations, such as Power Apps, Flow, SharePoint Spaces, all of those, well, you will never get that. Forget about that. Microsoft always says, like, hey, we might bring them down, but like Delve will never come to on-premises. It's so much resource consuming that you would need a whole data center to run it. And a lot of organizations, well, they never can afford that. And today, with Satya Nadella coming to Microsoft, we need, and still there is a need for a hub for digital transformation. We need a place where we can securely collaborate, where the scalability is easy and the flexibility is actually sky to the limit, right? So there is a need, and there is still a need for that place, and Microsoft Teams plays that role very well. And this is like the more technical side, and this is like the last slide before we get into the demo environment. It is extremely fast in provisioning the new workloads. Today, if you in your organization that still uses on-premises wants to onboard an end user, well, you have to create a user, provision the password, give access to SharePoint, create a new mailbox, add the mailbox to the correct DLs, and so on and so on. And it can take up to weeks or even months. And I do work for a big insurance company in my country. After 3 months, still things are not getting done correctly. And with Office 365, well, you just add the correct license to the correct user, and things are done very fastly for you. The intelligent bot ecosystem, which I'm a big fan. I hope today I can show it to you. I don't think I will have time, but let's see. But replacing FAQs, replacing lists, the frequent asked questions with the bot in Office 365, or even using the Power Virtual Agents for Teams, which is a free add-on today. Well, this is something that's the added value on the whole Office 365 ecosystem. The productivity, meaning we'll get another level because you can connect from any device, any place, and with anyone. And this is a perfect example. I am nowhere behind the pool, connecting with my 4G and presenting about Teams. And this is the perfect example. Like I can work and, you know, learn and teach stuff to others by connecting only to Microsoft Teams. The technical agility, I have a SharePoint background, and I know how painful it was to change some memory, processor, disk space on one of those servers today. Well, basically, you don't do it. And if even if you have some of those services under Azure, which can become Microsoft Office 365, well, it's only a matter of clicks, and easily things can be done. And the last thing, what I really love, is a very rapid future-proof deployment, which can bring some adoption questions, but for people who are actually very, very familiar with Teams and Office 365, this shouldn't be any issue at all. Okay, that being said, this is only the slides I had, very simply, and now let's move to the demo environment. As you can see, I have my demo environment in Microsoft Teams. I do assume that a lot of people already use Microsoft Teams. I'm not going to explain you the basics, but I'm going to show you how the basics can bring you headaches into the environment. So therefore, let's create a new team. When you create a new team, well, you have the option to create a new team. Well, basically, new team, you can join a team with a code, or you can join existing teams which are not private. Those are only the public ones. The private ones, well, you have to have a code, and whenever you have the code, well, you can join in by this option, or people can just add you into that team. I will add a new team. Well, I can do from scratch, create from a group or team, what we call the Teamify option. So for people who have a standalone Office 365 or the Microsoft 365 groups, well, you can use and Teamify and attach a team to the existing group. Or you can use templates, and we will see how you can create templates in a few seconds. I will create one from scratch, and now you get the option to create a private, public, or org-wide. A private one, people need the permission to join. A public, anyone can join. And an org-wide, not everyone can create an org-wide. Only global admins can create that. Why? Because this one will add every single person, every single object in Azure AD as a user, as a member in the org-wide team. And you don't want to make a lot of org-wides because, well, easily you can tag everyone, you can talk with everyone, everything is transparent, and you can even make fun of the CEO, which you don't want to do, I assume. I will create a new private one, and I will give a name, and I will call this project. Let's do this. Project UEFA. I'm not going to give any description, and I will create now my team. My team is now being provisioned in a couple of seconds. In the backend, well, now he did create the M365 group, he did provision the SharePoint site, he did create the OneNote, etc., etc. How can I see that? If I go under files, well, you will see that there is a connection made to my SharePoint, and I can now start sharing files into my SharePoint. Where the fun starts is the following. We all know that you can add channels into any team, and that channel is a container into your team that will host your files and data. And let's do it, marketing. I can have a standard one, which is accessible to everyone, or I can even make a private one. The private one is a specific one because this one will create a new SharePoint site, which is not team connected, and we will see that in a few seconds. But for the moment, I will create a standard one. I'll add a new channel. Basically, what you will see on the left side is under the general one, which is by default non-removable, non-editable, only to be consumed. So you can't do actually anything except using it. If I come to my marketing, well, you will see I have again the same experience, and I can come here to SharePoint and start collaborating. If I open this with SharePoint, well, I will leave the Teams experience, come into the SharePoint experience, and what you will see is within the SharePoint, I have the project UEFA. And here under the documents, well, I have two folders, the general and the marketing. It is a correct statement to say that every single channel you create, well, it is a folder into SharePoint. And let me prove that to you. If I just add a new Word file into my SharePoint experience, and I will just close that, I come back to my team, I will go to marketing just for God's sake to refresh. Well, you will now see appearing the Word document just here. And here is the magic. I will add a new, not a new team, I will add a new channel. I will call it marketing again. Well, what the engine behind that will say is, Gokun, your channel name has already been taken. You can't use that, which is right, because marketing is already here. And what I've seen a lot of people doing is they add emojis now into channel names, into teams names, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. This is really great from an adoption perspective. It brings some harmony than only text. Fantastic. But here is what's happening. I'd like to discuss around the budgeting from marketing. So what I will do is I will add a marketing and a dollar sign. I will add that. And now what's going to happen is I have a new channel with marketing dollar sign. And if I go under files, well, it should be empty, but it's not going to be the case. You might say, my God, Gokun never added actually a file into marketing dollar sign. Why does he now has a marketing sign, a document under his channel, right? That's so strange. So let's do a few tests. What I will now do is I will just rename that and say file from marketing dollar sign, right? So to make clear that this document is from the marketing dollar sign. Well, it looks okay. So if I go back to marketing and go under the file section, well, what you will see now is the same file. I have the file from marketing dollar sign. If I go back to my SharePoint and go under documents, well, what you will see is that the provisioning engine, and let me just refresh just to make sure, well, the provisioning engine didn't create a new folder. The reason is very simple. Let me show that to you. I will add a new channel. I will call this marketing and then add a new sign. And then I'd like to discuss about the heart sign. Well, now you can say, Gokun, why are you showing us twice the same example? Well, yes and no. If I hit on the files, well, now you will see that this one is empty. The major difference here is that the engine could translate the heart sign to an ASCII code, and now I have a new folder. Well, basically that means that the engine didn't really understand the dollar sign, and instead of creating twice the marketing folder, he said, oh, I already have a marketing folder, so let's use this. So basically now you have two channels working on one folder. Is this good? Definitely not. Is this bad? I don't know. It all depends how you want to use, but this is actually one of the biggest drawbacks you have here in SharePoint and in Teams, because the engine doesn't understand the difference, or let me rephrase that. The engine couldn't translate the dollar sign to an ASCII code. And again, if I add a new one just here, add a channel, don't get me wrong, I didn't even test all of them. I have a bunch of emojis. Like, you could even go to an emoji website and copy any emoji and bring here. I just did a test of 3. Maybe this one will work and this one will not work. I don't know. Well, you can even create a channel like that, which, well, it's possible. It's okay, right? This possible, but if you come to your SharePoint and go to the documents and do a refresh, well, I don't know if you want to see something like that into your SharePoint. And even if you go here, well, I've even seen some scenarios where the URL, there we go, even the URL will have emojis. How professional does this look? Today, I couldn't find a way on disabling emojis into those names. unless you are using naming conventions through the Teams Admin Center, Office 365 Admin Center, but you can do that. Governance is a must. Let me show you something else. If I come here and add a new channel and I say, Gokun is super cool and sexy, right? You can do something like that and add a channel and start collaborating on that channel and, add some emojis like, hello, this is part 1. And then you can even go to the tab and add some tabs herein. I will add a document library just to show you that you can just start working with Teams. And I will add the SharePoint Fest doclib. I will just give it a name, and now I have a new tab. Fantastic. But then your manager comes to you and says, like, my gosh, Gokun, well, I love you, but that name is not very professional. Could you please change that? And you know what? You can say, hey, I can do that. So what people will do is come here and click on edit this channel, and then they will give it Project FIFA. I'm just guessing some names. From a Teams perspective, this is fantastic. This will work because now I'm renaming this to Project FIFA, and you can see that this has been happening. If I come under my SharePoint, I will just refresh, and the name isn't still changing. I will just refresh again, and again, the name didn't change. I will refresh the third time just to be sure, and again, the name isn't changing. Well, what a lot of people will do is they will get scared and they will come here on the SharePoint and say, oh, let me rephrase this and do Project FIFA as we have in Teams. Well, what SharePoint will say, okay, you can do that. Although this is a Teams connected SharePoint, it will let you change that. And if you come back and do a refresh, well, congratulations, you have broken Teams. You now have broken the unique ID that was linking the Teams and SharePoint. Now, the items that you have, well, basically, they don't exist anymore. And the only way on how you can get this is by hitting on retry. Well, now you will see that it's working again. But still, I have the Gokun is super cool and sexy. I'm coming here, and what Teams did is creating a new folder which has the name Gokun is super cool and sexy. So basically, that folder that we had a few seconds ago, which we renamed, is actually for the garbage because Teams doesn't really care about that. And he just did create a new one. And let me show you, if I come here and add a Word document, I will just write something just to be sure that it's the same document. And I will close that. Come here, just make a refresh. And you will see that document just here. And if I open it with Teams, well, you will see that I have my Word document with test into that. Again, naming conventions, governance, procedures. Teams is great, is the hub for collaboration, but if you don't know what you do, well, you can have a lot of issues. Another thing, now not on a channel perspective, but a Teams perspective, now it's called Project UEFA, but in some scenarios, well, project names are getting changed and you can just come here and then hit on edit team and easily you can actually change the team name, the description, and the privacy. Well, I could change this to Project Alpha, Beta, as a new project name. And if I hit on done, well, basically Teams will say, you can do this, fantastic. And I have my project Alpha, Beta, Zeta, right? From a Teams perspective. In the backend, if I come here and if I do a refresh, well, what you will see is it's still under Project UEFA. This sometimes can get renamed. I've seen some scenarios where it's getting renamed. I've seen some scenarios while it's not, but this is still not that important, right? I can still rename that. What's really annoying is this part from the URL. This part from the URL doesn't get changed, it always remain project UEFA. It doesn't get renamed. And you may change 100 times your team's name, the URL name will always remain the same. So what I do ask my customers, partners, anyone which wants to use Teams is to give some code names whenever they create actually sites which you are sure that they will gonna change from name. So what I ask them to do is the following one. And again, this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you have the chance is if you create a team to give a name like project 133 and the year, it all depends on how you want to create your team, but give it the technical name. And then whenever that team is done, well, you don't care about anymore the project name because this could be now project one, right? This could be that. And now if I go to my files and SharePoint, well, this could be Project Pokemon, Project Digimon, Project The Simpsons, Project XYZ, Dragon Ball Z, anything else. Hey, now it's always remaining the Project 033 2021. Simple details, things that could save your life. I know businesses can get really annoyed when they see old project names, old legacy names. Always good to do that. And you can even apply this on the channels, right? You can even create a channel under a technical name and then rename the channel. And then no matter how you rename the channel in the Teams, it will always remain the same into your SharePoint. I promise you to show you very quickly about the private channels. Now, if you come here and create a private channel, well, the thing is, it will create a SharePoint site for you. The experience is the same. It will ask you to add people. If you skip that, well, you will see the private channel with the little icon just here in. That icon means that this is a private channel and only people who are actually part of the project Alpha Beta Zeta can actually be part of the private channel. So you cannot bring people from this team or that team. Well, they should be first part of this team and then they can be added to the private channel. If I come here under the file section, well, you will see that the experience is identical as the other channels. However, if you open this in SharePoint, well, you will see that this one is actually a complete new site and it's called Project UEFA private channel. So he did create a standalone site with the name of the team and the name of the channel, meaning that every single private channel you will create will provision a standalone SharePoint site in the tenant. If you have 50 private channels, well, basically you have 50 standalone SharePoint sites. Why do I insist on the standalone part is because it is not part of the team and only the owner can see the content. If it was part of the M365 group, well, basically the owner or the owners M365 group could see the data of your private channel, which we basically want to avoid, right? We want only the owner of the private channel be seeing the data. What you could do is easily delete, right? This will delete. This will not delete, as I mentioned. If you come to your marketing, well, this will delete as well, right? But what people don't do is they don't like to read. And what they say here is, hey, you are going to delete the marketing channel, yes, but all the conversations will be deleted. Right, that's true. However, your files are still accessible. So let's do that. I deleted this, right? And I will delete this as well. I will delete actually everything just to make sure. Okay, I deleted every marketing channel. Basically, if I come here under, not this one, but was it this one? Nope. This one. Okay, I have all my folders and none of them actually got deleted. They got deleted from the teams as a channel, but none of them actually, well, they're all still here. What I will now do is I will delete it, not rename, but delete it from here as well. Oh my gosh. Delete. Delete. Yes, I will delete. SharePoint allows me to delete. I will delete that as one. And then I will just come here under my project alpha, beta, zeta, and then under the channel section, well, if you come just here and hit on manage team, well, as a team owner, you have a few options, and you can see your owners, you can see the members, you can see if this is a private team, you can see the pending requests. You have a bunch of settings. We will all come here. But the most important for now, for this chapter, as we talk a lot about channels, is, well, you have all of those channels that we have deleted. And as an owner, well, you can restore those channels by hitting restore and restore and restore. So I'm offering an ebook for those who now can write me, and someone please check if we can see the data in the channel. So I will not check, I will just continue the session, but if some of the moderators can check if there is a correct answer, well, what will happen now is the following. Wow, it doesn't exist, couldn't load. If I come here, I can see, couldn't load. Basically, for a second time, you've broken Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. Just because you could delete a folder now, it doesn't load anymore. Well, you could, again, hit on retry, and now it will create a new folder for you where you can start collaborating on that one as well, which is okay, but those are not stuff that you want to definitely see, because now if I hit on refresh, well, what you will see is that the provisioning engine behind the scene has provisioned new folders less than a minute ago, with just a few seconds ago, right? All of those little things can bring you a lot of headaches with SharePoint and Teams. And honestly, I would recommend you playing in your environment with all of those things that I'm showing to you, so you can have the best of the governance into your environment. Let me see what I can show you else. There we go. Do we have any questions? Let me just check. Do we have any questions just here? If not, I will just continue. What happens if you edit the channel name from marketing dollar? Well, if we can make a test and show you in live. Question 2, let's say I'm part of the team project UEFA, where a team of 10, me and other colleagues are assigned to a channel marketing. I can't assign tasks dedicated to the channel marketing, same for setup meeting. Can files be shared external people or people from other teams from team without having to open? Okay, a lot of questions. I will come back because those one I need to collaborate on that. I will come to all of them in a few seconds, because I have a lot of things to show, and if I come into those things, I will not finish my demo on time. So I have a new conversation in every team. Well, you have a bunch of conversations that you can start, and you have a bunch of options that I really love with those one. What people do and what I really hate is the following. Hello. And then they start a new conversation. And then they just do, my question is the following, right? And then they just continue doing stuff like that. Golden rule number 1, whenever you create a post, is to hit on the formatting option. This will bring you a lot of options that you can use when you post something on Teams. And let me do that. If I hit on this button, well, you will see that you have a lot of those similarities as you have in Word, where you have like bold, underline, italic, and so on and so on. Well, we can add a new subject, new CEO. Delighted to assign Token as the new CEO, could be actually a part of that one. And then, well, you can add a bunch of stuff, but this one is my favorite, the code snippet. If I hit on that, well, as being a SharePoint guy for a decade at least, and using a lot of those languages for SharePoint, HTML, JSON code, and so on, well, you can easily come here and select the language that you want to use, that you want to add into your post. Let me use HTML as example. If I open my HTML tag and look what's going to happen, it closed the HTML tag automatically for me. If I do body, well, it will close body. If I do head, it will close head. There is no intelligence which will check as a visual code editor if your code is correct. However, it will have that intelligence to open and close the tags and even actually have that beautiful layout to make it better understandable for you and your colleagues about that specific language. And this is P1 in Teams with HTML. And if I insert this, well, you will see that beautiful layout coming here. And if I do send this, well, you will see that this will beautifully reflect as a new message under Teams. What I really love with that kind of stuff when you're posting is that you have intelligence, AI coming with Teams. And AI was something really impossible like 5 years ago or like 10 years ago when we had still the golden age of SharePoint 2013. Now it's just a matter of a few clicks. Moi, je parle français et en Belgique, on a 4 langues. Well, you probably didn't understand anything from what I said, but basically in Belgium, we have 3 or 4 languages. Like you have 3 official languages, French, Dutch, and German, and we all speak somehow English. So we can speak 4 languages, but not everyone in the world has that chance to speak 4 languages. Take the example of France. They speak French and they only speak French. However, they do speak English, but it's very with the French accent, with the Franglish accent, right? So what they can do is they could write to you in French. Bonjour, Gokan, comment puis-je vous aider? So that could be a reply or a new thread or a new post into Teams. What you can do is, if you just hover on the 3 dots, well, you will get a bunch of options. You can save that message, you can edit your own message. What's really interesting from a business perspective is the translate option and the immersive reader. If I hit on the translate option, well, AI will intercept the language that I've spoken, which was French, and translate this into your preferred language, not by default in English. So if your preferred language is Spanish, well, it will take it from French to Spanish. If your preferred language is Jamaican or Japanese, well, it will take it from French and translate it from there. This is on a user perspective, meaning that if Jean, Jacques, or Jake Daniels want to see the original message, well, this won't be translated for them. This is now only translated for me, and I can easily see it with that new icon that the message has been translated. I can easily come here and then see the original message, and then it will revert back to French in a couple of seconds. In the early stages of Teams, that option was disabled and the admins had to enable the translate option from the policies. I think with the releases that they had since a year or two, this is enabled by default. However, if you don't see the translate option in Teams, please ask your IT admin to enable it, because it's just a matter of one click to enable from the admin center somewhere in the policies somewhere here that they can just enable and translate options. What's really interesting with AI, so the translate is only one part, is that there's immersive reader. So what they can do is hamburger, cola, could write even words in French or in English. And I could, again, come here on the 3 dots and use the immersive reader. And the immersive reader will now take me to a new screen, which actually is a screen from the EDU, from the education that they actually have incorporated into Microsoft Teams. Well, very easily, nothing rocket science. I can see my text size, increase the spacing, see applied themes and templates. I can see the grammar options, enable and disable the nouns and the verbs, right? But what's really interesting is the following one. I have a picture dictionary. And if there is something that I don't know, like hamburger, which is the most stupid example ever, but I just want to make it as clear as possible for you, is if you don't get what the word hamburger means, well, you can easily use the picture dictionary and see what that word means. It will give you actually the image, and you can even listen how the pronunciation of Teams is, of the hamburger is. You can even do it for chien and for cola. Well, now you can see he doesn't know what those words means because chien is in French, which means dog, and cola is actually a Coke, a Coca-Cola, but in some countries they don't call it a Coke and they call it a cola. Um, all that just for saying that this does work with proper English. Don't get me wrong. A cola is still English. And if you come just here and you decide to translate this text from French, because chien is in French, to English, English United States, and I want the whole document, and it didn't. There we go. But it didn't translate. Did it translate? No, it did not. I want to translate the whole document. And he did not. Okay, maybe I will do it otherwise. Let's do it this. Dog, hamburger. We'll do it like this. Maybe it's going to be easier. I will come back to the three dots and then open Immersive Reader. I have my dog, which will pretty sure give me the dog image. I have my hamburger, which will give me the hamburger image. And now if I translate this to French, the whole document. Now it did translate to chien. I don't know why he didn't translate it from French to English, but now you can see that he did translate the dog to chien, and now I can even listen the English pronunciation and the French pronunciation, and I can see the dog. Simple things, but AI in the backend is doing a huge job to show you the dog image and to let you know the image of that word. This is for the posts. That was for the channels. Now let's have a look for the tabs. Tabs is yet another container that will bring you a lot of connectors where you can bring data, intelligence, applications from other applications and artifacts from the Microsoft ecosystem and even outside of the ecosystem. The session before just showed you a bunch of apps that you could use. I'm more interested to show you about Power Apps. Power Apps is one of my preferred applications or service that I consume because sky is the limit. You can build a lot of applications, a lot of stuff with Power Apps, and you can add it as a tab into your teams, and you can bring that application into your team and consume that one from them. Now I did add the connector of Power Apps into my team, and now he is loading. He is getting my token and checking all the applications I have access to. Now I can easily just, select for the demo's sake an application, and then that to-do list, which is an app into my Power App, can actually be showcased here. Well, you can even create an app and bring that application into multiple tabs in different teams. Well, how can you do that? Under the app section here on the left side, you have a bunch of applications that you can use and consume. One of them is Power Apps, and you can search it from here. And it's here. Mine is already here. I already did install it. And you can just within your Microsoft Teams already create any app that will consume about Dataverse. I'm not going to spoil a lot about Dataverse because I heard from the previous session that there is a session about Dataverse, but basically you can just start an app, from Microsoft Teams with Power Apps and actually build that application on top of Dataverse. Dataverse, which is a centralized SQL server somewhere for you with the most perfect recommendations and best practices and XYZ, because there is a team really in Redmond, a team that works for you, builds the CDS, builds Dataverse for you, and you just have to consume. You can just build that Dataverse-based application under Teams, and when you do that, well, basically within Teams, you will actually build and create your application. Now it's actually creating the environment for you, because all the data that you will store into your app will be stored into that environment. And with the Power Apps connector, you can show that into Teams. Just giving a few seconds to build that up. And oh my gosh, I still have to show you about tags, about the chat, about the whiteboard. Oh my gosh, and about tags. That's really important as well. And we only have like 30 minutes, and I can see a lot of questions, I think. Oh my gosh. We have to hurry up. Okay, cool. We can do it. There we go. And now what you can see is I have my app, actually the Power Apps designer, which is now running into Microsoft Teams. And every single time that you build, and I can give a name, Project Goken, I will save this. And now that app is now saved within Dataverse. And now every single thing that I will add as a new screen, as a new component, as a new XYZ, and I can easily just come here under the plus and then say like, okay, I like to edit button just here, and you will see edit button very quickly. It's not this session, but hey, just to show you, well, I can publish this to Teams. I will do next. And I just did forget where, in which team I did publish it. Hopefully I can see it here somewhere. There we go. I will do this under the general. I will hit on plus, save and close. And now if I come under my teams, under the general, you will see Project Goken, and ta-da, in a few seconds, I did create my Power App, which is actually consuming from Dataverse, where I have my application where I can write some text here in. And now you can use and consume that Power App from multiple locations, from the mobile, from the web, from the browser, from the application, and consume that data. Within a few clicks, you can do that. There is a session coming around Dataverse and Teams. I'm not going to spoil everything, but just to show you how easy it is. Something I really like to show you as well is the following. If you come just here under the posts, well, you can start a new conversation. We already saw that, but you can also meet. You can have a meet now. And now you should see my face, hopefully, if the camera is working, but it looks like it doesn't. So I will just disable that. And you can just start a new meeting directly with your colleagues into your channel. Well, I'm not going to explain you how things are working, but what's really interesting is the following one. You can share your desktop, you can share the PowerPoints you already had before, but you can also share the whiteboard. And whiteboard, don't get me wrong, is the most fabulous thing that you have in Teams, because this is a real game changer. What we are doing now is the presenter is speaking and you guys are listening. With whiteboard, well, actually, we can all collaborate on the same screen at the same time. So I could, and please don't judge me by my drawing skills. I'm very bad in drawing. So this is maybe a SQL server. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad in drawing, which has a connection to Office 365. And please, no screenshots and nothing on Twitter, because this is so bad, so ugly. And you could have just maybe a connection to the on-premises world, okay? So I can draw this, and some other colleagues which are in the call can just continue drawing this. Up to here, well, it's okay. It's nothing really, really great. What's gonna happen now is, again, another magic. I will open the app, I will open the ads, but now it's gonna crash, I think, because I'm connected on the wrong account. Let me just check. I'm pretty sure it will crash because this is like the Gokan account and I'm not on the test account. Just leave. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. What I will do is very simple. Just I will sign out, sign in, and I will use the. And now you guys have all seen my multiple email addresses, and I will just connect with the test account. So it is admin at xgoken.tk. There we go. And the password is password 123. Nope. And now I'm signed in with the correct one. There we go. And what you will see is normally it should even load the SQL Server drawing I had. This one should be the correct one. Did it load? It doesn't look like it did load. So what I will do is I will just open it again now with the correct credentials. And now it should be loading the correct drawing image that we had before. That literally means that if someone couldn't make the Teams call, well, from the whiteboard application, he can come here and continue the drawing as he was in the meeting. But what's really great is the following. If you add an image into Teams, well, you could say, Gokhan, come on. We are in 2021. This is not interesting at all. Anything, even Paint can add an application, add an image into your app. What's really great is this one, the ink grab. If you hit on that button, well, what's going to happen behind Azure is AI is he will transform that image into a real drawing. And then you can easily continue that drawing and say, hey, we had way more sales this year. So please don't go here, and we should maybe just go that way. I'm just guessing, doing some stupid stuff. But the whole thing is that with Whiteboard, you can even take pictures with your smartphone from real world drawings and insert them into your drawing, and then save this, and then in another meeting just continue herein, right? I'm not even in a Teams call, and what you can see is that the drawing is already here. Real collaboration starts when you really understand how the tools are working with Microsoft Teams. 2 minutes left. I will just show you one thing. And honestly, I just have like 15 other points to show you is the following. What you can do is also add tags into Microsoft Teams. What a lot of people are do is the following. They just create names like this, SharePoint team. SharePoint team. And then they add people like the SharePoint admins into that team, right? They can even add manage tags. I will add a new one. And then you can even have the marketing team. And then you can even add the marketing people into that. I will add this here, and then you can even create. What's going to happen now is I'm under general. What's going to happen now is if you start a new convo and you start a new message, hey, add marketing. Now I have marketing, 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 and marketing. Well, now I can clearly see the difference. Those are channels, and this is a tag. What I will do is I will select the first one. I will select the second one. I will select the third one and select the last one. Well, now this is still relatively simple because I could see which one was a team and a channel and a tag. But in the real world, when you have like 15 tags and 15 channels and people that you have to mention in a post, well, those have all the same color. At the end, you are basically lost. You don't know which one was a tag, which one was a team, which one was a person. You will get lost. The only way of knowing this is when you hit on send, well, you will see that the tag will appear as a red, and every person tagged into that team will actually get a notification by saying, hey, you have been mentioned in a post. This is my last recommendation to all of you, and then I will stop talking. I've been talking for 56 minutes. Is when you create a tag to use the same system as Twitter and as Instagram, as Facebook, to use hashtags, and then create the SharePoint team. And if you hit like this and add some people into that, well, you hit on create. What's going to happen now is if you come under general and start a new convo, well, what's going to happen here is I'm hitting that and then writing the SharePoint team and then the marketing team. Well, clearly now from a visual perspective, I know that every word that starts with a hashtag is a tag. Other that has nothing could be a channel or people, and I can even apply some naming conventions from channels with an emoji in the first place. So I know that a hashtag is a tag, an emoji is a channel, and everything else which has nothing is a name, right? Another tip. Okay. 3 minutes left. Let's move to the questions. My apologies. I have still a lot of stuff to show, but I'd like to respond at least to a few questions. Christoph Sachs, you have to leave. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. Stuart, how can we overcome the limitation of Power Apps running in user scope, especially if the user left the company? Do you have Power Apps governance best practice? Well, this is one of the most things, Stuart, that is an issue for all of organizations is what do we do if the user is leaving, or can we do co-authoring with Power Apps? I don't have an answer to that. I'm not the Power Apps guy to do that. But yes, that's a big concern if the guy leaves the organization or, if he messes up, or if you want to work with multiple on that app today, it's not possible. That's not the real answer, but hey. Sophie Timmermans, go Belgium, go. Yes, welcome. Then Natalia had the question, but then I see that Daniel already responded. The question of Natalia was, can files be shared to external people or SharePoint for people or file from other teams, from teams without having, okay. As far as SharePoint feature within Teams, you can only send links. Okay, so that's the correct answer from Daniel. Well, if you want to share some files, well, it should be open from OneDrive and from SharePoint. If you just invite people on Teams without being open with SharePoint, well, they can only see the conversations and see the links, but they can't access any data in SharePoint. What governance syntax rules do you provide? What governance syntax rules do you provide? Alan, I don't really get the question, so we can sync offline because we have like 1 minute left, or you can always send me an email at goken@neoxy.be. Do I have like a thank you slide with my email? No, I don't have it, but this is my Twitter handle, xgoken. So if you have any question about this session or anything related to Teams that you want to ask, it's always welcome. I'll try to respond within the 24 hours to any question on my Twitter, xgoken. And then I will check the last one just here. Question to you from Sophie Timmermans. Let's say I'm part of your team project UEFA. We are 10. Me and other colleague are assigned to the channel marketing. I can't assign tasks dedicated to the channel marketing, same for the setup meeting. Well, this should be okay because it is also provisioning a planner plan. You should be able to add that. My humble response, and I don't want to be out of time, you should be able to do that. I don't know why you can't assign people from the same channel, from the same team, but this should be definitely possible. It's not possible if it's private. If you're in the same team, it should be possible. If you're in the same team, if it's not in the same team, well, that's not possible. Definitely, that's what I said in early the session. But if you're in the same team, I don't see a reason why it's not possible. Okay, it's 6 p.m. my time, so I think it's time to stop for me. Rez, up to you.
Thank you so much, Gökhan. That really exceeded my expectations. So you really covered a lot. So really happy with that. I learned a lot myself. So I just want to thank you so much. I know you had so many more gems to share as well. So I've shared your contact details in the chat for those people who can follow you and keep up to date with all the cool stuff you're involved in. So I just want to say thank you once again to Gökhan. It was a great pleasure to host you. Do you have any final announcements to make? Anything you're up to?
Thanks everyone for joining this, and thanks to you guys for organizing this, because the most powerful weapon is knowledge, and without knowledge we are nothing. So thank you for actually letting me share my knowledge, and thanks to all the attendees for coming and learning about that knowledge. That's highly appreciated.
That was a great pleasure. Great pleasure once again. Thank you, Gokhan. Right. Okay. So we completed that hour to the fullest, and now we're on to the next session. So without further ado, and I can see Giuliano is online already.